All eyes were on Red Bull on the final day of pre-season testing in Bahrain, following talk of a major upgrade that could transform Formula One's competitive order. And while its car changes weren't as extreme as those deployed by Mercedes at the start of the test, it was another salvo in a fierce development war that will rage throughout the 2022 season. Red Bull has refined the design it grabbed the headlines with when the RB18 first broke cover on the opening day of pre-season testing in Barcelona. As always in Formula One, it's about taking a design that was already aggressive and making it even more so. But has this latest evolution, produced under the technical leadership of Adrian Newey, given Red Bull the edge? Red Bull's upgrade hit the track on the final morning of running in the hands of Sergio Perez, and the RB18 ended the test fastest in the hands of world champion Max Verstappen. The new package comprised modifications to the sidepods, floor and the front wing. With these new ground effect 2022 Formula One cars all about ensuring the downforce generating power of the underfloor, the airflow structures down the side of the car are crucial for performance, as is maximising the airflow speed around the side of the car that's then fed into the Coke bottle area and then across the top surface of the diffuser. The most eye-catching changes Red Bull have made are to the sidepods. These are even more tightly packaged, which allows the undercut to be extended. This is significant because it means there's a little more width to the floor, improving the airflow by creating a more direct route around the sidepods. But the most significant change is the reprofiling of the top surface of the sidepods. This is now more progressive, with a new channel to create downwash, directing the airflow into the Coke bottle area. At the front of the floor, the outer vane has been reprofiled. The lower part of the leading edge and the bottom of the forward part of the vane have been turned slightly inwards. This will be to refine the vortex generation in this area. Creating powerful vortices that run down the side of the floor is crucial to seal the underfloor and maximise the downforce produced. This means we have seen plenty of development in this area. It's also been made doubly important by the need to minimise porpoising, something that can be achieved by increasing the power of the floor sealing vortices to avoid having to run at ride heights so low they risk triggering aggressive porpoising. We explain how important this is in our look at the way McLaren has minimised its bouncing problem. Further back on the floor, Red Bull appears to have attempted to reinforce the vulnerable outer edge. Inboard, the ramp sloping upwards to the top of the diffuser starts a little earlier. This is likely a refinement to the more crude initial version and will likely be more sympathetic to the airflow to the top of the diffuser. Red Bull also introduced a modified front wing. Its design has evolved throughout testing as, in line with most teams, it's tweaking the shape of the trailing edge of the top flap. The airflow coming off this has a big impact on the rest of the car. The reason so many changes have been made is that as you gather more data and understanding on what's happening with the airflow, you can influence it with changes to the front wing. Red Bull started with a relatively conventional wing design. This increased the height of the front wing as it headed outboard from the nose, with the maximum load just before the midpoint before it dropped away again. Earlier in the Bahrain test, Red Bull reduced the load on the inboard end. This will lead to greater transverse flow effectively across the front wing, which will increase the outwash effect. This is the airflow that is turned outwards from underneath the chassis around the front corner of the sidepods. But Red Bull perhaps felt it went too far with this change, as it then dialed that back and went to a more uniform load distribution, reducing that transverse flow again. Before we move on to talking about the latest on Mercedes and McLaren, we wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. Your support means a lot to us and we're glad to have you along for the 2022 F1 season. If you're not yet part of the team here, feel free to hit that button anytime to join us for the ride. As we explained in our close look at the Mercedes sidepods early on in the Bahrain test, there were some question marks about the legality of the design. But these weren't directed at the sidepods themselves. After all, packaging everything as tightly as possible is something every team tries to achieve, so this is to be expected and it complies with the rules. But instead it's a related part of the package, the wing mirrors, that have caught the attention of Ferrari. Ferrari's team principal Matteo Binotto described these as spaceship mirrors, hinting they might not be in the spirit of the regulations. The objection to the mirrors is that they are mounted on an aerodynamic shroud that contains the upper side impact protection system cone, entirely independent of the sidepod. This cone is a mandatory component and its function is not impacted by mounting the wing mirror on it. However, mounting the mirrors in this way helps make what some have called the size 0 sidepod design possible, and Binotto isn't the only one to have raised an eyebrow. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner has traditionally been happy to stick the boot in on Mercedes. Indeed, he was quoted as questioning whether the Mercedes sidepods were within the spirited regulations on day one of the test. Red Bull claimed this was not an official comment, but Horner did subsequently speak in an FIA press conference in which he offered his opinion that the Mercedes sidepods were absolutely legal and ticks all the boxes. But of course, this is Formula 1, so behind the scenes there's doubtless all sorts of lobbying, not just about legality, but also the much vaunted spirit or intent of the regulations. On Tuesday, there will be a meeting of the F1 Technical Advisory Committee in which all sorts of questions and concerns will be raised about the cars ahead of the season opening Bahrain Grand Prix. It remains to be seen whether Mercedes does face any challenge for its mirror design, and indeed what, if any, rule clarifications might be needed. But you can be sure the politics will be raging behind the scenes, given there's a whole new rulebook to fight over. McLaren completed the final day of F1 testing with a partial solution to its braking problems, but must wait until next week's season opener for a final fix. The team has had to make on-site modifications and fly in upgraded parts to complete race simulations after suffering front brake cooling problems in Bahrain. That has limited Lando Norris to short runs and left McLaren with the lowest lap tally of any team this week. Team principal Andreas Seidel described it as a week of firefighting. McLaren was able to undertake some setup work and evaluate some car upgrades, while the reinforced components on the final day finally let Norris complete some longer runs. There is another upgrade being sent to Bahrain next week ahead of the first round of the season. McLaren expects that to resolve its unexpected issue, but it meant that the test ended with another day of mileage management, even though it was a little more productive. Norris has conducted all of the driving solo this week as Daniel Ricciardo has COVID-19. It means Ricciardo faces the unenviable prospect of starting the 2022 season having only completed 1.5 days of running at Barcelona. Ricciardo is expected to be able to return for next weekend's Bahrain Grand Prix, but if not, McLaren has an array of potential reserves. Their list of options comprises Mercedes reserves Stoffel Vandoorne and Nick de Vries, who currently race in Formula E, Formula 2 champion Oscar Piastri thanks to a new agreement with Alpine, and even Paul di Resta. But while Norris is obviously in a stronger position than his sideline teammate, he's still behind where he wanted to be after testing. Norris said, "We've encountered quite a few more problems which have limited the amount of laps we've done by quite a huge amount, especially on the long run stuff. The lower fuel and shorter runs we were able to do, but not the high fuel runs. So we're definitely behind from where we want to be, where we need to be, and where we can say we're confident in any way going into the first race." With Mercedes and Red Bull aggressively bringing car updates and Ferrari quietly going about its business without any dramas, McLaren now faces a huge challenge to start F1's new era as a genuine frontrunner 1 week from now.